Hi, I'm Talia. I'm the ESG Director at Colpac. Within that role, that means a lot of different things. I work across the full suite of our programs and processes to do with each of those different headings, so environmental, social, governance. I'm also one of the co-chairs of the newly formed Alliance of Fibre-Based Packaging. I sit on the interim steering group of Pack UK, the EPR scheme administrator. And outside of that, I do lots of things to do with nature, wildlife and conservation. I sit on the boards of an amazing youth charity called UK Youth for Nature, and an incredible organisation as well called Global Canopy that is seeking to target the market forces destroying nature. If I was looking at pre-ESG Director Colpac life and now, it's like niche knowledge of packaging reform and recycling. Maybe it doesn't sound that unusual, but I think it's one of those things that I developed as an ability to learn and to harness new skills around really niche parts of life that many other people outside the industry don't care about. Finance, fundamentally. I did my undergraduate degree in French and Russian. I then did a master's called Environment, Politics and Society, which was really policy focused. That really all fed into my sort of deep personal interests in international relations, different cultures, how to interpret those and bring those together, the partnerships and collaborative skills that those are needed. And so coming into this role and focusing more heavily on business, I felt very confident in a lot of the other skills around policy implementation, analysis, monitoring, the interpersonal skills, the partnerships, how we need to collaborate and bring that all together. Where I was, definitely had less experience was on the financial side. Everything costs money. Sustainability is an amazing tool to increase the business performance of an organization. And so just learning how to bring those two worlds together properly, both, and be able to use each of them to justify each other. And so make sure that I'm not able to do something just because of finance, or that finance isn't stopping me from doing projects, and vice versa, really. So that's been, that continues to be, I think, the most interesting, continuous learning curve, to be honest. Yeah, this is ultimately the biggest challenge, right? Is how do you balance those? I think the most important thing for me has been establishing a really strong values base. So my priority in the first couple of years of being here was really kind of exploring and hammering home why we would even do it in the first place, whilst obviously looking at some of the other elements around, this is good for business because we want to give our marketplace this, we want to give our customers this, they're asking for this, so let's deliver. And obviously lots of that was informed that way. Customers, started asking for carbon. We're going to do carbon. And not only are we going to do carbon, but we're going to do it way more than we are mandated to do. I mean, fundamentally, we're an SME, and we've just done so much more than the government's asked us to do, that customers have asked us to do. We sort of have grown that ambition, but that's because we've really established this really strong, concrete base that business should be a force for good, and that it's not counter to business aims. And so you can't just be cutting off sustainability ideas just to save money, because that doesn't actually make sense in the long run. And if you do it right, sustainability does create commercial value, and you have to make sure that you're, checks and balances, and you're checking with yourself all the time. Like, does this make sense? Are we actually doing this? And lots of times I'm like, I really want to do this. This would be really good. And it doesn't make commercial sense. And then you find those trade-offs. Yes, my net zero baby. To be honest, the most significant step was starting. I spent a year trying to figure out how to begin, and talking to lots of different organizations like full suite consultancies, platforms, free calculators. I was going out trying to build a network, trying to understand how you actually do this. So when we did actually start the program and we started data collecting, that was kind of like slightly a shock to my system, but also an organizational shock, because I'm starting to ask questions that never been asked before. So that's been a really significant step. And then obviously there's, big hits along the way. So big highlights of the first time that one of our team came to me with a sustainability question issue that they had already dealt with and I hadn't had to pick up on. That's an amazing moment. Walking into a room for starting to talk about our year 4 calculations and going, okay, yeah, let's step it up. We're going to do all of this, and go, yeah, sure. Rather than having to go, and this is why, and please, and I can help you, and please delegate to me, and trying to do that. So I think, yeah, starting and obviously now we've had this amazing 22% reduction, which is really exciting. And
at KP, sustainability is in every solution, from recyclable medical device films to recycled content card films. We're leading the future of sustainable packaging.
What a fantastic question. Because this is something I think about all the time, and it's a real priority of, I see it as a real priority of my role, and we see it as a real priority as an organisation. Like we've said before, I think I've said before already, we're an SME, but we are, as I like to say, a small but mighty enterprise. So whilst we are small on a balance sheet, in terms of our ability to have an impact in our marketplace, we have been a large presence for many, many decades. One of the main ways that I have found the easiest to stay ahead of these changes is fundamentally through collaboration. This has been really the absolute cornerstone of change for me. So I've, yes, building a network, but what does that actually mean? It doesn't mean, going to networking drinks and figuring things out. It's going to conferences, it's targeting people, it's looking for new organizations. That's why we've co-founded the Alliance of Fibre-Based Packaging, because fundamentally without collaboration, no one can keep on top of any of this. There's too much change, there is too much going on. So we've really committed a lot of my time to collaboration, to working with others, to finding connections within our industry, but also outside of our industry as well, because you can't just talk within packaging all the time to understand what's going on. And then obviously there's more traditional means of Googling a lot. I've developed a really strong network of individuals throughout the other countries that we export to, because it's not just about regulatory change in the UK. I look after regulation in all 60 countries that we export to. That's a huge challenge. I can't stay on top of all of that, so I really rely on my contacts, and I really rely on our team here to be able to hear from customers, keep up to date. And it's basically like a 25 million pronged attack process to be able to then go, yep, we know what we're doing. And it's, it sounds a bit all over the place, but it's a really clear method that we've come up with, and we're really good at it. And it's one of our main areas of expertise. The key misconception is around the word sustainable. We do use it because it's become a catch-all term essentially for recyclable packaging that has, the impact of that packaging has been thought about. But ultimately you have to sort of question, what does sustainable actually mean? Because are we trying to keep what we have now? How much does that shift? What do we actually mean when we say sustainable? So I think that's a big misconception in the industry, that sustainable packaging is like perfect, because obviously you then have this sort of loop of greenwashing that can come from that. Like that can produce a lot of claims. Like if you see someone just say, oh, we have sustainable packaging, that can get in the way of actually understanding what they mean. So one of the things, we talk about trade-offs quite a lot. So for example, packaging that massively extends the shelf life of the foods might be, you might not be able to recycle it, but it's kept that food fresh for 15 days, 16, 17, 18. There's some really interesting innovation and tech around that. And so then you ask yourself, well, what's more important? The carbon emissions that come from food, which is so much bigger than packaging, or the recyclability of that packaging? And how do you make that trade-off? And how do you say which one is more important than the other? So I think that those are some of the misconceptions around sustainability, because sometimes a non-recyclable pack could be globally having a bigger impact than the pack itself. Advocacy in our sector is a real passion of mine, passion project. I have this background in political communications. So I worked at the European Parliament, I worked in the Cabinet Office. I've worked in campaigning with youth organisations. Mentioned in my introduction, on the board of these two organisations. That's really about policy and advocacy and campaigning and driving change at a political level, but in companies and in financial institutions as well. So this is a really key focus for me. It also suits my skill set and what I enjoy in my day-to-day life, which is interpersonal skills, collaborating, talking to people, getting down to the sort of centre of issues, finding out what people care about and understanding how to tackle that. I find really interesting, possibly from my languages background, of being able to walk into a room, not be able to speak the language, and then still being able to figure out how to come to some kind of result. I would invest so much money into waste management and reprocessing systems. Like that is one of the biggest challenges. Those sectors are really struggling to meet the demand of innovation and changing packaging. If we can solve that end of life and increase things like being able to identify different packaging formats throughout the waste management process, if we can support reprocessors with new technologies and development to be able to recycle harder to recycle materials, I think that would have an extraordinary amount of change. And ultimately that's what the EPR scheme is looking to do. It's trying to disincentivize materials, so stopping manufacturers like us from using hard to recycle formats and really focusing on designing packaging that can work with our waste management or reprocessing systems. But if we could just really focus on investing in all of that, then I think everyone would be happy and we could really make sure that investment is going there, because they are crying out for it.
Wouldn't know.
Ooh, lots of things, because we have such a fun team. But I would say I'm going to go for three things. So one, we used to make the Trivial Pursuit boxes. Pretty fun if you like Trivial Pursuits. Two, I think probably the number of languages that we have on site. We throughout our factory and our offices, I think we have over 20 languages, which is actually really amazing, especially that we are sort of very much in the middle of Fields, Bedfordshire. And then third of all, I think actually is our site itself. If you see Colpac from the road, it is very 70s factory vibe. But when you then come in and you sort of go past the offices and you see our factory, it really is our factory is a really extraordinary place. The machines that we have, the technology, the people, so much bigger than it looks from the outside, and just that real core of innovation in the middle of Flitwick, where you wouldn't expect it, with our sort of glass 70s fronted building with a few cars outside. You just wouldn't expect it, and that is the brilliant thing about Colpac, is that we are just there delivering with high quality, high innovation, incredible products, quality and people, and shouldn't underestimate it.